Thanks for clicking on to the Friday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. This was the scene yesterday morning as we traversed Greenland, crossing the mile-thick ice of the Greenland Icecap, then over the snow-covered fjords, the glaciers, eventually reaching the icy waters of the far North Atlantic and Greenland Sea. A very interesting flight path, that's for sure. We did exit to the east of Tokyo out over the northwest Pacific, then took that north to northeasterly track up over Alaska, the edge of the Arctic Ocean, far northern portions of the Canadian archipelago, across Greenland, and then southwards to the east of Iceland, and actually, believe it or not, within 2 miles of where we live in the village of Evanton, just north of Inverness, right down the spine of the UK, and eventually into London Heathrow. Flight time of just shy of 14 hours. So but it was an excellent flight home, I must say. And then we had an hour delay at Heathrow, but an hour delay at Heathrow, no particular panic really, given the amount of delays you can sometimes receive at Heathrow, and it being, of course, Europe's busiest airport. But like I say, a very interesting flight back home yesterday, and we did pass not overly far to the north of Summit Camp, which of course is a research station and holds some remarkably cold temperatures. And I thought it was quite interesting to have flown right over the center of Greenland to the north of Summit Camp during the course of yesterday morning. Temperatures can get down into the minus 50s, minus 60s, even slightly colder than that in this region of the world. So flying across, exiting one of the busiest parts of the world in terms of human traffic to some of the emptiest parts of the northern hemisphere is always interesting to see. So anyway, enough about that. Some very interesting things going on at the moment here. Of course, we have had an exceptionally wet start to November, first half of November, northern portions of France, even the southern portions of England. And our good friend Dan Harris, based at the Met Office, I do encourage you to follow him and follow his tweets, because he always delivers some very interesting statistics and information. And one of the recent tweets he put out said that it's rained every day here in mid Devon. That's of course where he's located, and that's where the Met Office is located at Exeter. This particular location received 91.9 millimeters of rain. In fact, it's rained every day of the past 4 weeks. So the past 28 days, it's rained every day in mid Devon. 185.6 millimeters of rain. And the last fully dry day was all the way back to the 16th of October, which is pretty remarkable actually, at his particular location in the middle of Devon. We also have seen some significant amounts of wind across, particularly northern France. But Storm Debbie did deliver some pretty strong winds in recent days as well. We did see wind gusts in excess of 90 miles an hour in parts of the Republic of Ireland. We had 60, 70 mile an hour winds in parts of Northern Ireland, northwest England, and over the Pennines, of course. And France has even had even worse conditions in recent times, due to the fact that we've had one system after another hammer, particularly northern and northwestern portions of France. If we look at this tweet here by a meteorologist based in the Paris area, I believe, this is one of the rivers that run through Grenoble, and the level of the river exceeds the flood of 2001. So record-breaking amounts of rainfall during the first half of November, and they've seen a quarter of a year's worth of rain in parts of northern France in the first 2 weeks of November. We did see, of course, once I think it's two, even three systems, in fact, in the last 10 to 15 days has generated winds in excess of 80, 90, even 100 miles per hour, anywhere from the Brest area of northwest France all the way down towards the coast just to the west of Bordeaux. it really has been an exceptional period of weather across this region of Western Europe. And of course, with you compare this with what Dan Harris has put out with regards to the rainfall in mid Devon, it has been very, very interesting indeed. It looks as if we are going to slowly start to see the weather easing somewhat, and the Arctic Oscillation does look as if there is quite a spread between strong positive and indeed strong negative as we move towards the final week to 10 days of November. You can see quite a spread. Now the GFS ensemble, the mean takes it from neutral to slightly negative, if you notice here, but some of the members have it at +2 sigma above average, whereas we've actually got some models, arguably more models going firmly in the negative territory as opposed to positive. And you can see the North Atlantic Oscillation, there is a spread here also. But if we look at the GFS ensemble, there's quite an interesting solution coming up towards next week, and it's really all eyes on next week, by the way. This is the upcoming 5-day period. GFS 500 millibar anomaly. So this is the ensemble, of course. This is the upcoming 5 days, and this is looking over top of the northern hemisphere here, so looking down over the pole. For reference, North America, Greenland, Iceland, UK and Ireland, western portions of Europe. Now notice here, the upcoming 5 days has relatively above average heights, extending from Spain, Portugal, northwards into the UK and Ireland here, if you notice, trough over eastern portions of Europe, driving cold air south. Now, as we go into the 6 to 10 day, bear in mind this is the GFS ensemble, you can start to see that ridge strengthens but shifts westwards to the west of the UK and Ireland here, sticking its nose up towards Greenland here. We've got a negative, not one but two. One over southern portions of Europe, one over the north of Scandinavia here, as you can see. But the key reference point here is the center of that high in the means for the 6 to 10 day, which takes us through next week, shifts to the west. That would incorporate a northerly airflow coming around the top of that area of high pressure. And then the 11 to 15 day here, which takes us to the final days of November, early portions of December. And you notice here that we've got quite the negative NAO signal starting to show up in the GFS ensemble here. So we've got that Europe trough and the high Greenland and into the Arctic region itself here. Now let's have a look at the CFSV2. This is slightly out of date because it's currently uploading the new data as of recording, so I can't unfortunately show you this, but this is the upcoming 7-day period. You can see here slightly different, but not really. Notice here that we've got the core of the ridge over to the west of Iberia, sticking its nose up into the UK and Ireland here, and we've got another centre of positive heights over the North Atlantic here. Notice also we've got a lot of positives extending over the North Pacific, into Alaska, up the western side of North America. Therefore, that drives a cold trough out of the Hudson Bay, south and southeast, in through the Great Lakes and the northeast United States. Now, week 2 gets interesting because you can see here, like the GFS ensemble, we're seeing that positive strengthen to the northwest of the British Isles here, indicating that more of a trough over Central and possibly Western Europe, but that positive over and to the west of the UK and Ireland here. So that would certainly indicate increased chance of having something colder coming in from the north towards the middle and second half of next week here. Let's have a look and see what week 3 is indicating here of this the CFSV2 weeklies. And you can see here we've got quite the negative NAO and AO signal. Lots of positives, lots of blocking over the North Atlantic. Of course, we are seeing that weakening of the Atlantic jet stream. Welcome news, of course, for parts of France, particularly northwestern France, northern France, where we've seen a quarter of a year's worth of rain, as I've already said, during the first 10 to 15 days in November. Notice here that the positive here shuts down the Atlantic. We are going to dry things out, even if it doesn't get necessarily particularly cold. And there's a big question mark in terms of how much cold we may get in the pattern. The real take home here, folks, is the fact that it's a drier theme during the middle and second half of this month, and I think that is the important thing, given the fact that we've seen so much rainfall. I've noticed actually that the rainfall across northern portions of the UK has been slightly less compared to October, but that wouldn't be difficult given how much rainfall was seen during the month of October. We've not seen as much during the month of November, but that storm track has been steadily shifted further south. Therefore, we've seen colder conditions but less rainfall further north as a result of that here. But week 3 of the CFSV2 takes us into the early portion of December, and it's interesting to see that we have got that negative AO and NAO signal shown by the models here. So let's have a look and see at Europe a little bit more closely. This is the temperature anomalies for the month of November so far. So this takes us out to today, the 17th of November, and you notice here that we've got below average temperatures across the northern UK and Ireland, near average across the bulk of England and Wales, but slightly above average across the southwest of England and Wales here. Average conditions, Republic of Ireland, much colder compared to average across Scandinavia. That is a bit of a standout globally at the moment in terms of the temperature anomaly. But notice here that we've got the core of warmest compared to average across Eastern and Southeastern Europe, slightly above average across Central and Western portions of the continent. Now, this is the CFSV2 weekly's upcoming 7-day period, above average temperatures across a broader area with the exceptions of Scandinavia, if you notice here. Then, of course, as the model indicates the high starting to back westwards, we are starting to see the warmer than average ease across the UK and Ireland here, below average now across France and the majority of southwestern Europe. But look at this turnaround taking place. November 30th through the 7th of December, we're starting to see that colder signal materialize here. That could be because of the shift in the Mann-Julian oscillation going from central to eastern portions of the Pacific into the Atlantic also. So there may be some tropical forcing indicating that shift in the overall pattern here. But that's a very interesting look as we move towards the end of November and start the month of December here. Could there be shades of something similar to what we had back this time last year? And of course, we had a very cold opening first 2 weeks of December in 2022. Of course, we need to remember that that actually was the coldest December period since 2010 for the UK overall. So yeah, quite interesting pattern coming up, that's for sure. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to the channel. The winter forecast is now starting to get put together, the final forecast that is. I have, of course, released many updates indicating my ideas, what we're looking at, the drivers globally in terms of what goes into a certain type of weather pattern. All these ideas are now starting to become focused on the overall idea itself, and that will be released Thursday, the 30th of November. So put that in your diary. That will be the winter release date for the forecast here. So it's looking interesting as we go towards the final week or so of November here. A drier theme materializing, but also something colder. Actually, looking at precipitation, this is the upcoming week of between the 16th and the 23rd of November here off the CFSV2. Still wetter than average, if you notice here, the majority of the UK and Ireland. But look at the turnaround week 2 as we start to see the high pressure building north and northwestwards. And then week 3, you notice here that we have got a drier overall theme. Notice here the following week between the 7th and the 14th of December. Still a long way out, of course. And the CFSV2 does have a bit of a warm bias. But notice here that we've got wetter than average further south, indicating that more southward displaced jet, as we may see more of a negative NAO signal. So plenty of things to whet your appetite with regards to the winter seasons. Keep it right here on markvoganweather.com on YouTube. Check out markvoganweather.com on the website, of course. Plenty of things to look at, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday. I'll see you again hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.